Hello students, today we are going to start with our paper Labor Laws. Its paper code is BBA07. In this PowerPoint presentation we are going to gain definition of labor, what is the definition of law, and your syllabus of labor laws, that is paper code BBA07. Then we will start with the module 1, that is the Factories Act 1948 and the various definitions which are covered in this Factories Act. So today we will do all these things in this tutorial, that is in this presentation. So first we will start with labor laws definitions. Now, the term labor means productive work, especially physical work done for wages. Labor means the work which is done by the wagers. Generally, they do productive work, physical work, especially physical work, and for this they get wages on the basis of daily, monthly, or weekly. Now, what do you mean by law? Law means the set of rules and regulations, that is law. Laws means the system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. Means these are the set of rules which are, and they are different for different countries, and if you do not abide by these rules you may face with penalties for not abiding with these laws or the set of rules, and these laws are different for different countries. So labor laws means the laws which are mainly for workers. And what are these? These are the rules and regulations which are mainly specialized, which are mainly formed for labors. Now, labor law is also known as employment law. We call these labor law, we also call them employment law. Is the body of laws, administrative rulings which address the legal rights of and restriction on working people and their organizations. Legal rights are also covered of working people, as well as what restrictions can be imposed on these working people as well as on the organization. Now, next, your syllabus of labor laws, that is paper code BBA07, is divided into 4 units, and in these units various acts are covered which are related to labor laws. Now, these in module 1 we will be doing the Factories Act. In module 2 we will be doing the Payment of Wages Act. Third, Workmen Compensation Act and the Trade Union Act. And in unit 4th we will be completing the Industrial Dispute Act 1947 and various industrial relations approaches, then their conflict, what are the various machinery for overcoming these industrial disputes, what is collective bargaining, grievance procedure, all these things which are related to your industrial relations. So in our labor laws papers syllabus, we have the Factories Act, the Payment of Wages Act, the Workmen Compensation Act, and the Industrial Dispute Act. Now we will start with the module 1, which covers your Factories Act. This module 1 covers your Factories Act 1948. This act was formed in 1948, but it came into force on 1st day of April 1949. The Factories Act 1948 came into force on 1st day of April 1949. Now, this act extends to whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir, and covers all manufacturing processes and establishment falling within the definition of factory as defined under section 2M of the act. Unless otherwise provided, it is also applicable to factories belonging to central and state government. Now, this act, the Factories Act 1948, it came into force on 1st day of April 1949. Now, this act covers whole of India, including now Jammu and Kashmir is also included in legislature of India. So it also extends to whole of India as well as your states of Jammu and Kashmir, and it covers all these. This Factory Act applies to all the manufacturing processes and establishments which fall under the Factories Act definition, which is given in this act, which is defined in this act under the section 2M of this act. This Factory Act also applies to all the factories which belongs to central and state government, otherwise, unless it is not stated. It is not stated by the central and state government. Unless otherwise provided, it is also applicable to factories belonging to central and state government. Now, next, object and scope of the Act. The main object of the Factories Act 1948 is to ensure adequate safety measures and to promote health and welfare of the workers employed in factories. That is, the main object of the Factories Act 1948 is to ensure adequate safety measures and to promote health and welfare of the workers employed in factory. So mainly this Factories Act 1948 works for the safety, health and welfare of the workers which are employed in the factories. Second, the Act also makes provisions regarding employment of women and young persons, including children and adolescents. The Act also provides various provisions which are to be applied when we are employing women and young persons in our factories. Also provisions regarding annual leave with wages, etc., how many leaves they are going to get, what kind of deduction we can do from their wages, which are allowed, which are not allowed, so how many types of leaves they can take. So all this we are going to do in this Factories Act. Now, next, important definitions. Now, the main definitions, the first definition of Factories Act is, what do you mean by factory? What is a factory? According to the Factories Act 1948, the factory means any premises, including the presence thereof, wherein 10 or more workers are working or were working on any day of the preceding 12 months, in any part of which a manufacturing process is being carried on with the aid of power or is ordinarily so carried on. Or, second definition, whereon 20 or more workers are working or were working on any day of the preceding 12 months, and in any part of which a manufacturing process is being carried on without the aid of power or is ordinarily so carried on. So there are two definitions of factory. Now see, there are three main factors which come under the definition of factories. First, number of workers. So when there should be 10 or more workers working on any day, working right now they are working, or they were working in the last 12 months, they were working on any day. Fine. So first is, there is 10 or more workers. Second, they are working or they were working in the preceding 12 months. Third, manufacturing process is being carried on. And fourth is with the aid of power. Now, the second definitions remains the same. There are mainly 4 points only. That is, number of worker is now 20 or more workers and working or were working on any day of the preceding 12 months, and in any part of which a manufacturing process is being carried on. Manufacturing process is being carried on without the aid of power. But here the power is not applied, means power is not used for manufacturing process. See, when you have 10 or more workers, you are using the aid of power. Now, when you have 20 or more workers, you are doing the manufacturing process without the aid of power. This is the main difference between these two definitions of factory. when you are using par, you are using less workers. When you are not using par in manufacturing process, you are using more workers. So 10 workers means the manufacturing process is carried out with the use of par, with the aid of par. 20 workers means more workers, means the manufacturing process is carried out without the aid of par. So, according to section 2M, Factories Act, factory means any premises including the presence thereof whereon 10 or more workers are working or were working on any precedent 12 months, and in any part of which a manufacturing process is being carried on with the aid of par or is ordinarily so carried on. Second definition, wherein 20 or more workers are working or were working on any day of the preceding 12 months and in any part of which a manufacturing process is being carried on without the aid of power or is ordinarily so carried out. Now, this first line, according to section 2M, factory means any premises including the presence thereof. Here, this presence means any premises. Premises can be any building, and this building can be this building or this premises can be with boundaries or without boundaries. For example, manufacturing process of salt is carried on a land. There is no foundations, there are no boundaries, there is no building, but the manufacturing process is carried on land. So this will also be included in the definition of factory, इंक्लूडिंग दी एनी प्रेमाइसेस इंक्लूडिंग दी प्रेजेंस जिसकी बाउंड्री में ये काम हो रहा है, इट विल बी इंक्लूडेड इन दी डेफिनेशन ऑफ फैक्ट्री. I hope the definition of factory is clear. 4 main things you have to learn in the definition of factory. First is number of workers. How many number of workers? If 10 workers are there, you are using the aid of par. If 20 workers are there, you are not using the aid of par because it is a factory. So manufacturing process should be carried on, and there should be carried on, and what will be the timing? It should be right now, it should be carried on, or it was carried on within the preceding 12 months. In the last 12 months any manufacturing process has been done in that factory. It will be included in the definition of factory. Now, coming to our next definition or next slide, this factory, it does not include a mine subject to the operations of or this Mines Act 1952. This factory, these mines will not be included in the Factories Act, or any mobile unit belonging to the armed forces of a union, a railway shed, or a hotel, restaurant, or a eating place. All these places are excluded from the definition of factory. Now, next definition, our next definition is of adult, then adolescent. Now, adult. According to section 2A, an adult means a person who has completed his 18 year of age. Now, according to the Factories Act 1948, an adult is any person who has completed his 18 years of age. Now, coming to our next definition, that is adolescent. According to section 2B, an adolescent means a person who completes his 15 years of age but not his 18 years of age. Means he has completed his 14 years. He is between 14 and 18 years. He has completed his 14 years of age, more than 14 years but less than 18 years. He will be known as adolescent. Hence, he is someone who crosses the age of a child but is not an adult yet. In Hindi, we call this as Kishore Avastha. Now, coming to our next slide, we come to the definition of child. According to section 2C, a child means a person who has not completed his 15 year of age. Means he is a child. A child means he has not completed his 15 years of age. He is less than 15 years. Now, worker. The main definition, because we are studying Factories Act. Now the main definition is of worker according to section 2L of Factories Act 1948. I am repeating this Factories Act 1948 so that we can remember the year in which this Factories Act was formed. But it came into force on 1st day of April 1949. Now, worker. According to section 2L, worker means a person employed directly or by or through any agency, including a contractor, with or without the knowledge of the principal employer, whether for remuneration or not, in any of the manufacturing process or in any cleaning process of that is of machinery or premises used for manufacturing process, or in any other kind of work incidental to or connected with the manufacturing process. Now, coming to the explanation point, worker means any person who is employed in the factory, either directly by the principal or the occupier or the manager of the factory, or by any agency, or he is hired by any agency, means without the knowledge of with or without the knowledge of the principal employer. If you give contract to any worker and he gives his contract to another worker, so that means he is employing workers without the knowledge of the principal. So in that case also, if that worker is working in that organization, he will be called called the worker of that particular manufacturing unit only. Now, worker means a person employed directly or by or through any agency, including a contract, with or without the knowledge of the principal employer, whether for what, whether for remuneration or not, whether for remuneration, whether you are going to give money, or just you are taking their work, not for the money. In any case in the manufacturing process, or whether they are directly employed in the manufacturing process, or they are employed in any cleaning process, or which is somehow related to manufacturing process, cleaning of machinery, cleaning of floor, somehow it is related to manufacturing process. Any other work, or not only cleaning, any other work which is incidental to or connected to manufacturing process, these workers, these persons who however they are employed in the manufacturing process, they will be known as worker. Now, this manufacturing process, it does not include any member of the armed forces of the union. Any person who is also a member of the armed forces of the union, he will not be included in this definition of worker of the Factories Act. Now, next definition is shift and relay. According to section 2R, where work of the same kind is carried by two or more sets of workers working during different period of the day. For example, like workers are working in shifts. For example, one shift of worker is working from 9 to 12 and the next shift is working from 12 to, for example, I am saying from next shift of working is from 12 to 3. So they are working in relay. Each of such set is called a relay, and each of such period is called a shift. They are working in shift and the work is going on in relay. Now, coming to our next definition, that is manufacturing process. In our definition, we have done where manufacturing is the factory is a premises where manufacturing process is being carried on, and what is included in this manufacturing process. Let's sum up with this. Manufacturing process, according to the Factories Act 1948, manufacturing process means any process including making, altering, repairing, ornamenting, finishing, packing, oiling, washing, cleaning, breaking, demolishing, or otherwise treating or adapting any article or substance with a view to use it to its use, sale, transport, delivery, or disposal, pumping oil, water, sewage, or any other substance, generating, transforming, or transmitting power, composing types for printing, printing by letterpress, lithography, photograver, other similar process or book binding, constructing, reconstructing, repairing, refitting, refinishing, or breaking up ships or vessels inserted by the Factories Act 1977. This provision was inserted by Amendment Act 1976. 9. Preserving or, now coming to the next point, preserving or storing any article in cold storage. Now, all these processes are included in your manufacturing process. Manufacturing process means any process for making, altering, repairing, ornamenting, finishing, packing, oiling, washing, cleaning, breaking up, demolishing, otherwise treating it for some treatment is going on a particular metal, or adapting any article or substance with a view to its use, sale, transport, delivery, or disposal, pumping oil, water, sewage, or any other substance, then generating, transforming, or transmitting power, composing types for printing by letterpress, lithography, photogravure, other any kind of bookbinding work, photography, press, printing, then constructing work, repairing work, refitting work, finishing of this ship work, preserving or storing any article in cold storage. All this will be included in manufacturing process. Now,
Today we are going to do health provisions which are provided under the Factories Act 1948. This Factories Act 1948 came into force on 1st of day of April, 1st April 1949. Now, there are various measures under Factories Act for health, safety and welfare of their workers. Workers which are working in factories, there are various measures which are prescribed under the Factories Act for their health, safety, and welfare. Such measures are provided under Chapter 3, 4, and 5 of this Act. Today, we are going to do health measures, health provisions. Now, provisions regarding health. First is these provisions regarding health are contained in the section 11 to section 20 of this Factories Act 1948. The various provisions are related to cleanliness, disposal of waste and effluents, ventilation and temperature, dust and fumes, artificial humidification, overcrowding, lighting, drinking water, latrines and urinals, and spitons. Now, starting with the first provision, provisions related to health, Chapter 3 of the Act deals with the health provisions. Starting with the first measure, that is Section 11, cleanliness. According for the cleanliness, the provisions which are provided are factory to be kept clean and free from efflua and dirt. Every factory should be kept clean and free from efflua arising from any drain or other nuisance. Accumulation of dirt and refuse shall be removed daily by some effective method. The floor of every room should be cleaned at least once in every week by washing, using disinfectants where necessary, or by some effective methods. Means factory should be clean and free from any dirt or effluvia. Then there should be effective means of drainage where a floor is liable to become wet in the course of any manufacturing process to such an extent as is capable of being drained. Effective means of drainage should be provided. Now, use of disinfectants, etc., painting, varnishing, use of disinfectants, detergents, painting, and varnishing, revarnishing, whitewashing, or color washing shall be restored as and when required. So, there are three measures which are taken under cleanliness. First is factories to be clean and free from dirt and effluvia. Then there should be effective means of drainage, and there should be proper and regular use of disinfectants, paintings, and varnishing as and when required. Now, coming to the next measure, disposal of waste and effluents described in section 12 of this act. There should be treatment of waste and effluents and their disposal. Effective arrangements shall be made in every factory for the treatment of waste and effluents due to the manufacturing process as carried on thereon, so as to render their innocuous means not so that they are not harmful, as well as there should be proper means for the disposal of their of these waste and effluents. Then state government may make rules prescribing the arrangements to be made in this regard. It may also require that such arrangements should be approved by such authority as may be prescribed. If a state government wants to make more rules regarding the disposal of waste and effluents, it can recommend, and it can also guide the authority who is responsible for cleanliness or for responsible for disposal of waste and effluents in the factory, in a particular factory. Now, next is your ventilation and temperature. Maintenance of adequate ventilation for air and temperature. Effective and suitable provisions shall be made in every factory for securing and maintaining in every workroom. Proper provision should be made for adequate ventilation by the circulation of fresh air and such a temperature as will secure to workers their in reasonable condition of comfort and prevent injury to health. Means there should be proper ventilation and temperature which is not injurious to the health of workers should be maintained in any factory. Then process producing high temperature to be separated. If there are processes which are carried on in which high temperature is required, such processes should be separated from the normal processes where the workers are working. The walls and roofs of shall be of such material as so designed that the temperature shall not be exceeded but kept as low as practicable. The process which produces high temperature shall be separated from the workroom by insulating the hot parts or by other effective means. Now, fourth is your dust and fume. Measures for prevention of inhalation or accumulation of dust and fume. There should be proper measures which will which preventing inhalation or accumulation of dust and fume in any industry or any factory. Exhaust for internal combustion engine. If any internal combustion engine is employed in that factory, there should be proper exhaust facilities. First is your dust and fume measures for prevention of inhalation or accumulation of dust and fume. Where dust or fume or impurity of such a nature as is likely to be injurious or offensive to the worker is given off as a result of the manufacturing process being carried on in a factory, effective measures shall be taken in the factory for prevention of inhalation or accumulation of dust and fumes in workrooms. If for such a purpose any exhaust appliances is necessary, it shall be applied as near as possible to the point of origin of the dust, fume, or other impurity, and such point shall be enclosed so far as possible. Then, a stationary internal combustion engine shall not be operated unless the exhaust is conducted into the open air. Other internal combustion engines shall not be operated in any room unless effective measures have been taken to prevent accumulation of fumes therefrom which are injurious. Uh, Next is that is overcrowding. Overcrowding injurious to health of the workers to be avoided. There shall not be overcrowding in any room of the factory so as to be injurious to the health of the workers, and there shall be at least 9.9 cubic meter of space per workers for the factory which are formed before the commencement of the act, and 14.2 cubic meters of space which are for the factories which are formed after the commencement of the Factories Act 1948. Notice of maximum of workers to be employed in the work. Right? If the chief inspector by order in writing so requires, there shall be posted in each workroom of the factory a notice specifying the maximum number of workers who may be employed in the workroom. Maybe next, drinking water. That is, drinking water means suitable points for for wholesome drinking water. In every factory, effective arrangement shall be made to provide and maintain at suitable points conveniently suitable for all workers employed therein a sufficient supply of wholesome drinking water. Suitable points should be there in every factory for wholesome drinking water. Suitable points should be made, and if there are more than 250 workers employed in any factory, cooling of drinking water should be applied. That. Now, next is your lighting facilities. Sufficient and suitable lighting in every part of the factory should be there. Glazed windows and skylights to be kept clean. Measures for prevention of glare and formation of shadows should be there. Prescription of standards of sufficient and suitable lighting. The state government may prescribe standards of sufficient and suitable lighting for factories or for any class or description of factories or for any manufacturing process. So, for lighting, suitable and sufficient lighting in every part of the factory should be there. In every part of a factory where workers are working or passing there shall be provided and maintain sufficient and suitable lighting, natural or artificial or both. Then all glazed windows and skylights used for lighting of the workroom shall be kept clean on both the inner and outer surfaces. Then measures for prevention of glare and formation of shadows. Effective provisions shall also be made for the prevention of glare either directly from a source of light or by reflection from a smooth or polished surface, and the formation of shadows to such an extent as to cause eye strain or the risk of accident to any worker. Then the state government may prescribe standards of sufficient and suitable light for factories or for any class or description of factories or for any manufacturing process. Now, next is your urinals and latrines. In every factory, sufficient latrine and urinal accommodation of prescribed type shall be provided conveniently situated and accessible to workers at all times while they are at the factory. Separate enclosed accommodation shall be provided for male and female workers. Such accommodation shall be adequately lighted and ventilated, and no latrines or urinal shells unless specially exempted in writing by the chief inspector communicate with any workroom. All such accommodation shall be maintained in a clean and sanitary condition at all times. Sweepers shall be employed whose primary duty it would be to clean all urinals and washing places. Now, the state government may prescribe the number of latrines and urinals to be provided in any factory in proportion to the number of male and female workers ordinarily employed therein, and provide for such further matters in respect of sanitation in factories, including the obligation of workers in this regard, as it considered necessary in the interest of the health of the workers employed therein. Now, the last is your spitons. In every factory, there shall be provided a sufficient number of spitons in convenient places, and they shall be maintained in a clean and hygienic condition. The state government may make rules prescribing the type and number of spitons to be provided and their location in any factory, and provide for such further matters related to their maintenance in a clean and hygienic condition. No person shall spit within the premises of a country except in the spitons provided for the purpose, and a notice containing these provisions and a penalty for its violation shall be prominently displayed at suitable places in the premises. Whosoever spits in contravention of subsection 3 shall be punishable with fine not exceeding 5 rupees according to the penalties exposed by the Factories Act 1948. Now, revising our content, that is, the Factories Act provide for provisions for the health, safety and welfare of their workers which are working in factories, and such measures are provided under chapter 3, 4 and 5 of this act. Provisions, first we are going to deal with the provisions regarding the health of the workers. Here these provisions are there in the section 11 to section 20 of the Factories Act 1948. First provision is regarding cleanliness, then disposal of waste and effluents, ventilations and temperature, dust and fumes, artificial humidification, overcrowding, lighting, drinking water, latrines and urinals, and spit-ons. Now, provisions related to health, Chapter 3 provides the various provisions which are related to health of the workers. First is your cleanliness. Factories to be kept clean and free from effluvia and dirt. Every factory should be kept clean and free from effluvia arising from drain. Accumulation of dirt and refuse shall be removed on daily basis. The floor of every workroom should be cleaned at least once in a week with some effective method, that is use of a disinfectant. There should be effective means of drainage if somehow the floor becomes wet after cleaning. Then there should be regular use of disinfectant, painting, and varnishing. That is all. That it all comes under your cleanliness measure. Then second is your disposal of waste and effluent. That is proper treatment of waste and effluent should be there, as well as their proper disposal method should be prescribed. And the state government, if it thinks so, it can prescribe more rules related to disposal of waste and effluents in any factory. Now, ventilation and temperature, that there should be maintenance of adequate ventilation and temperature, such a temperature which is not injurious to the health of the workers who are working over there in a factory. And adequate supply of fresh air should be there. Process which produce high temperatures should be separated from the normal working place through insulated walls. Then next comes your uh, next is your dumps and dust and fumes. Measures for prevention of inhalation or accumulation of dust and fumes should be there, means no worker or no workman should inhale, or there should be proper measures to prevent accumulation of dust and fume, wherein dust or fume or impurity of such a nature as is likely to be injurious or offensive to the worker is given off as a result of the manufacturing process being carried on in a factory. Effective measures should be taken. Then exhaust for internal combustion engine. If any combustion engine is employed in that factory or other combustion engine is employed in any factory, there should be proper exhaust facility should be there for the proper ventilation of dust and fumes. Now, next is your artificial humidification. Prescription of standards of humidification, ventilation, and cooling of air in respect of all factories in which the humidity of the air is artificially increased. The state government may make rules prescribing standards of humidification. It may also make rules regulating the methods used for artificially increasing the humidity of the air. Water use Water can also be used for artificial humidification, and the water which is going to be used for this artificial humidification should be clean, should be derived from clean source. Then is your overcrowding. Overcrowding is injurious to the health of the workers, and as per the prescription of the Factories Act, 9.9 and 14.2 cubic meters of space per worker should be provided in the factory. And if required, the chief inspector may order any factory or to place the notice of number of workers working in any working room, number of workers working in any room. Now, next comes to lightings. These provisions or these measures are provided in Section 17 of the Factories Act 1948. Lighting means sufficient and suitable lighting, and every part of the factory should be there. Glazed windows and skylights to be kept clean. Measures for prevention of glare and formation of shadows should be there. Prescription of standards of sufficient and suitable lighting should also be there. Means suitable and sufficient lighting, it can be either that is natural or artificial lighting. Then glazed windows, which are used for the lighting purpose, should be kept clean. Then their measures for prevention of glare and formation of shadows which are obstructing the working of any worker should be prevented, as well as there should be prescription of proper standards for sufficient and suitable lighting. State government can prescribe such standards and sufficient and these standards for particular factory. Now, next is your drinking water. There should be suitable points for wholesome drinking water, and in every factory. And if there are more than 250 workers are employed in that factory, then factory can provide the provision for cooling of drinking water. Then next there should be section 19 deals with the latrines and minerals. In every factory, sufficient latrines and mineral accommodation should be there according to the prescribed format. There should be separate enclosed accommodation for male and female workers. It should be proper ventilated. It should be properly clean and sanitary condition. It should be in sanitary condition all time. A proper sweeper should be employed for the cleaning of such minerals, as well as the state government prescribe the number of latrines and minerals to be provided in any factory in proportion to the number of male and female workers ordinarily employed therein, and provide for such further matters in respect of sanitation in factories, including the obligation of workers in this regard as it considered necessary in the interest of the health of the worker employed there. Now, next is last is your spit-ons. Section 20 of the Factories Act 1948 deals with the spit-ons. In every factory, there shall be provided a sufficient number of spit-ons in convenient places, and they shall be maintained in a clean and hygienic condition. The state government may make rules prescribing the type and number of spit-ons which are going to be provided in that particular factory. No person should be allowed or shall spit within the premises of the factory except in spit-ons provided for the purpose, and notice containing the provisions and the penalty for its violation shall be prominently displayed at suitable places in the premises. However, spits in contravention of this section 3 shall be punishable with fine not exceeding 5 rupees. Now, these are the various provisions we have done today regarding to the health of workers which are working in factories. There are provisions regarding to the health, welfare and safety of workers. Health provisions relate to cleanliness, disposal of waste, ventilation, temperature, dust and fumes, artificial humidification, overcrowding, lighting, drinking water, latrine and urinals, and spit-ons. These provisions are contained in the section 11 to section 20 in chapter 3 of the Factories Act 1948. Now, sum up with this. Now we are going to sum up with this presentation. Okay, thank you, students.